Let's settle in. Take a deep inhale, deep exhale, and make a sound as we are doing so. And drop in beyond all of each other to participate together in this contemplation. Today my invitation is to look at the role of emotional vulnerability in human evolution. In evolution of you or me as a human. And from human to human being, with focus on the word being. Everywhere on the first page of Google you will see that vulnerability, emotional vulnerability is a weakness. Emotional vulnerability is an openness to attack and a threat. And that's what the word vulnerability is. But then when we look at emotional vulnerability, there is so much more to it to use as a context for our exploration today. So if you have done some inner work, you might be aware that emotional vulnerability gives us opportunity to connect with other people on a deeper level, and that it's not a weakness. You might even hear the idea it's a strength. Well, my invitation is both judgment of it as a weakness and labeling it a strength. Both are untrue and both are just concepts. It's neither weakness nor strength. It's just a characteristic of expression of you or me as a person, as what is personal in us. If we look at this from standpoint of its functionality, that's where I want to take the conversation. When we share what's really going on within, what we are truly feeling, our doubts, our concerns, our emotional turbulences, when we share it openly with others, that's what we consider to be emotional vulnerability, its expressions. Why it connects people? Because we all experience one form of not enoughness or another. And sometimes it feels very personal, sometimes it feels I'm the only one who is not enough in one context or another. And when we have someone else share their reality and we recognize it in ourselves, we suddenly feel connected. We suddenly feel seen and heard and known, and through that we feel that we see and know another being, and now we are connected. We have something in common. And that's beautiful. You know, in the circles of inner work, of self-development and self-improvement, vulnerability is very welcomed. And somehow we even position it as to be a better human being. If you're vulnerable, it's fashionable to be vulnerable. My invitation is to look at it a little bit deeper, what it really means for us. What is the function of it, how it is useful to be vulnerable. Yes, you can connect with others on that level, but my invitation is, let's go back. Let's go to what's prior to me and another being. What's prior to subject-object relating to other people. Let's focus on you outside of relating. Let's focus on you, on that center of perception from where the world of another is perceived. As a person, I have certain identity. this identity has certain experiences. As a result of certain experiences, it forms clusters of thoughts, belief systems, mental structures, through which we identify ourselves as a person to be. When I experience certain emotions and I'm not aware of them, which most of the time it happens in human mind, we circle around in loops of mental structures and emotional repetitive pattern. We keep repeating, we chewing on stuff. We get lost in it, we get unconscious. We get overwhelmed by our emotions very often. We don't understand our emotional world. In that, we forget who we are. And it feels we don't even know who we are, but we really forget. We know it. We knew it, we experienced it before, but we forgot. When I am vulnerable with another, it means I'm first aware of my tendencies, or at least I'm aware of outcomes of the tendencies. So there is a certain level of awareness is needed to even be vulnerable. At least I have to be aware of what I feel or what I think, and therefore I can share my doubts with another. Or acknowledgement of what I perceive to be my weaknesses. So I have to have certain awareness of my inner world. Now the functional aspect of this process of sharing, beyond the bonding, because you only can bond with person that exists on your level of ignorance. And please don't feel defensive when you hear it. It's your level of ignorance or my level of ignorance. And by ignorance, I don't mean level of absence of intelligence. It's absence of spiritual understanding of who we are. It's identification with illusion. So, the level of identification with illusion that we share with another person defines the level of bonding. But if one person fully awaken in realization that they are not their emotions and thoughts, and another person fully consumed by that and shares the vulnerability, the bonding will not happen. The love can happen, the compassion can happen, the beautiful experience of just sharing space together can happen. But there will be no bonding on the level of emotional relating. Because the person who woke up from identification with their emotions does not exist in the same reality. They don't live in the emotional world. They observe the emotional world, they experience the emotional world, they don't live in it. They don't believe in it. They don't assign value to it. But if you share what's vulnerable for you, disregarding of where the other person stands in their life, where they are, at which level they exist, from what reality they meet you in this conversation, there is benefits for you or me to be vulnerable. Because when I speak out, when I give a sound to my doubts, I am hearing them sometime in the very first time. It brings awareness to some aspects of my inner world that is living on the level of subconscious or unconscious sometimes. So when I become vulnerable, and I get out of all the masks and facades and protections of any kind, when I become vulnerable, I expose my inner illusions to another person. And the main benefit of it, I expose my inner delusions to myself. So it all is now brought to awareness. I become aware of my identification with my emotion and doubts. If another person reflects back to me illusion, and it mainly happens in the conversations. That's why we feel suddenly relaxed and home, because we spot the illusion in it. And in conversations it can happen in many ways. For example, person say, "Oh yes, I too feel this," and now you try to console them, and you develop solution for their imaginary problem. And as you do that, you suddenly realize there is some solutions for your own challenge, and there is a resolution through seeing it through. Or another person, as they're listening to you, as you speak your mind and you speak your heart, they try to offer some solution, and they might point you to some error of perception that causes you pain. For example, they can simply bring evidence that your thoughts is not true. For example, you vulnerably admit to another that you feel unloved, and they tell you how much they love you and you don't see it, and how much they know that other people love you and you don't see it. And suddenly the evidence that they bring destroy your illusion and investment in that not enough thought. Or you share with them how angry you are at yourself for something. And then when you present your narrative, they poke holes in that narrative. They break down your storyline in pieces that don't really fit together. And so your anger at yourself is gone now, because the evidence is brought to destroy your illusion that caused emotional imbalance. Very often in inner work circles, people use vulnerability as their business card. This is what I am, and here I am, and they spill their guts to each other. And somehow people relate on that level. But my invitation is to look at it as the opportunity for your own inner work, not to just bond through it, but to use it as a reflection, as a mirror that everybody who involved in this vulnerable conversation can use to shine light on truth. So then, what I'm sharing vulnerably, no longer anymore, this is what I am, but it becomes, please look at my illusions, help me to see them. Because I obviously can't, since I suffer at the moment. And that which I vulnerably want to share with you is a demonstration of my suffering. I feel I'm not enough in some way. I feel the world is not enough in some way. I feel the moment is not enough in some way. And as you speak your truth, you free yourself from that which you think is true. Because what you speak is not truth. What you speak is distortion of truth. So vulnerability is sharing with each other distortion of truth. When we're vulnerable with each other, we don't share our truth. We offer to each other our distortion of truth. And that's the beauty of this as a tool of spiritual growth, or rather spiritual evolution, emotional maturity. Let's take together inhale again and exhale. Let's notice all resistances that might come up for us in this, as we are listening this. Do we notice any tensions in the body? Does any part of us want to fight back about this idea and argue this idea? And convince yourself that when you are vulnerable, you're actually speaking your truth. If that's where you find yourself right now, my invitation is look deeper. For that, let's step back together and answer that question, who is thinking that he or she is sharing the truth when they're vulnerable? Who is that who is thinking this? What aspects of you thinks that? And what is your nature on a deeper level? Go back at the very beginning of yourself. What are you? Are you that specific aspect, or that's only manifestation? And if it is, what's before? What is before that thought? Where does it begin? Trace it back. Trace it to the very beginning. Where can you find the very beginning of any thought? Can you find alignment in which there is no resistance? Because there is no dominating thought that wants you to pay attention to it, believe in it, convince the world in it. Let's drop all identities now. And that's true vulnerability. Dropping all identity manifestations. And that's where we exposed. Right now, right there. Open, raw. And now let's trace our nature back before all the emotions that right now shining through. Before that. Let's trace it to the very silence of your soul, to the light of the spirit, to the ocean of wisdom. Is there anybody who feels not enoughness that wants to be shared in the moment of sharing your emotional vulnerability? Does that person exist on that level? Level prior to any thought, to any idea, to any identification, to any clinging or grasping for next thought to identify yourself with. Let's go before any thought, to that place before any single thought that arises. And may you relax in that space. May you feel safe and not vulnerable. Because there is nobody to be afraid, nobody to be attacked by anyone or anything. That which you are is untouchable. That which I am is untouchable. May you feel protected today. May you feel loved and complete. Much love, and I will see you, or you will hear from me soon. Much love.